Hi guys, welcome to the last in this series of race versus class monologues, I guess. I've been doing about D&D. Tonight we'll be covering the Tiefling. After this, I'm going to have a look at what I can cover and try and find something a little more interesting. This turned out to be a lot drier than I expected, but I have OCD, so I was going to finish it regardless. Well, I don't actually have OCD. Well, maybe I do have OCD. I'm not entirely sure. When I start something, I finish it. I suspect I have OCD, let's say. But anyway, I have so many weird things wrong with me. This week, we're talking about the Tiefling. I quite like the Tieflings. They've always been a bit too cool for school for me, but they're half demon, and that's awesome. Background-wise, there's not too much in a Tiefling in terms of racial abilities or racial background, because they are the product of a demon deciding to breed with a human on an individual case-by-case kind of basis. There's a lot of other people's background, other people's attitudes towards it in the background. So how other people treat Tieflings and how other people act towards Tieflings gives you a lot of hooks there. What demon you've bred with, and there are quite a few lists of demons in the monster manual that you can look up, also gives you a great idea of A, what your Tiefling might look like, and B, what its attitude, its actions, its instincts might be like, and whether or not it chooses to go with those instincts or fight those instincts. The Infernal Bloodline. The Infernal Bloodline is like Tieflings are derived from human bloodlines in the broadest possible sense. It basically just sits there and says Tieflings can look pretty much however you want them to look. They can have tails, canine teeth, etc., etc. Any number of demonic features. A lot of them gives you all the demonic features, but frankly, you can look at the demons, you can look at what you want, and work with your DM to decide what your Tiefling creature looks like and how it reflects its demonic parentage. The self-reliant and suspicious, as that goes into the background of how other people treat them, and then, of course, how they react to it. Most Tieflings don't trust people because most people don't trust Tieflings. It gives you a bunch of names, but I'm not entirely sure whether you choose to go for names. You know, as I say, some of the Tieflings will have a name given by their demonic parent, but a lot of them are just going to be Bob or Frank or Schubert the Devil, whatever you want to call it. You also have virtue names, often given to Tieflings when somebody wants them to fight against their nature. Ability score-wise, you've got intelligence increased by 1 and charisma by 2. You can instantly see how that's going to time with a lot of the spellcasting classes. Alignment, Tieflings be any alignment. They're medium size. They've got dark vision, which is great. They've got hellish resistance, which is a resistance to fire. So straight away you can see how fire magic, which ties in with the infernal background. Sorry, guys, got something I can work quite easily there. I think I've been through this before with the Dragonborn. If you're casting around fire, if you're casting around spells, being immune to the thing you're casting around, and a lot of people like fire, or at least being resistant to it, is a pretty good advantage. You've got the Thaumaturgy cantrip. You've got the Hellish Rebuke at 3rd level. Sorry. You know the Thaumaturgy cantrip, when you reach 3rd level, you can cast the Hellish Rebuke as a 2nd level spell once with this trait and regain the ability to do so when you finish a long rest. When you've reached the 5th level, you can cast the Darkness spell once with this trait and regain the ability to do so when you finish a long rest. Charisma is your spellcasting ability for these spells. So, straight away, it lends itself to your magic users. Background-wise, it lends itself quite easily to warlocks, who's more likely to make a deal with a demon than someone who's part of demon themselves. Sorry. Barbarian-wise, Tieflings are mistrusted. Tieflings are pushed out into the wilderness, so it makes a lot of sense to have a barbarian. It's perfectly common sense there. The Tiefling might be very self-sufficient, as it says in the background, and might choose to take up a barbarian-esque lifestyle. The rage and the furious nature can come from the Tiefling's internal turmoil, so that's really that ties in very easily to that. A relentlessly raging Tiefling barbarian's quite easy to understand. There's nothing rules-wise which lends itself to a barbarian, but a raging Tiefling barbarian would nonetheless be cool. Bards, you've got the charisma buff rules-wise, so straight away you've got +2 in charisma, which helps bards and helps with their bardish magic. A lot of the lovable rogue ideas work well with a Tiefling. The idea of a demonic Tiefling who manages to charm his way in there. The devil's always meant to be a charming character, and as are many of the demons and devils in D&D. They're very, some of them are raw monsters, others are very, very charismatic. So again, background-wise, the bard works very well with the Tiefling ability, with the Tiefling race. Or you could play a more lonely, driven Tiefling who's basically uses music and remembers things as a way of keeping himself sane when he's alone. There's lots of backgrounds in the Tiefling. Cleric-wise, you're playing against type with the background here, which is a really cool thing to do. The idea of a Tiefling on a path to redemption. Sorry. Or trying to ascend above what he might consider his curse is very good. Straight away, the charisma there is going to give you a lot of buffs in there. Having the extra spells as your cantrips is also going to be quite useful. Anything that gives you extra magic as a magic user is fairly cool there. So yeah, it works well with that. Druid-wise, there's nothing particularly to lend yourself background-wise to being a druid. Tieflings are considered more unnatural creatures. Again, you might want to play against type, and that's cool. But unlike cleric, it's not like a complete battle. It's part of your innate nature, and whilst you might try and rise above it, or choose to become one with nature, it's not going to be that big, dramatic, grandiose battle that a Tiefling attempting to become a holier creature is. Fighters work with everything. There's nothing that particularly lends itself as a Tiefling. The darkness spell could be useful and stuff like that. Background-wise, anyone can be a fighter. The idea that a Tiefling's grown up being bullied and picked on and had to learn to fight and stand up for itself, that's fairly solidly built into the character there quite well. So that's a cool background you could try. Otherwise, the idea of a big, giant, horned creature smashing its way through things is always cool. Anyway, what's we got? Let's have it. Paladin, same thing with the priest. The charisma instantly is going to give you... Oh, yeah. My brain there going charisma for the cleric. Obviously, clerics are wisdom. There's no buffs for being a cleric. But with a paladin, the charisma is your thing. Paladins basically pray to gods, please, dear God, can I have a pony to smite my enemies with? And the god go, yes, mighty paladin, has pony smite. Which is cool. The extra charisma is going to work. Again, the idea of a Tiefling trying to fight against its innate demonic nature and become a holier, good creature is really a nice big grandiose story arc. The idea of possibly even not of ceasing to be a Tiefling and becoming a human, or maybe even an elf. I mean, Tieflings tend to be with humans, but there's nothing that says you have to play a half-human tiefling. You don't get any advantage of playing half-elf, half-human, but it's certainly a possibility you could take up with the DM. Rangers, again, with the tieflings, self-reliance, that locks right into the ranger background. There's no rules abilities, but being able to see the dark is often useful for rangers and scouts. And the cantrips might come in handy as well, so that's there. Sorcerers. Sorcerers lock straight into being a tiefling. Again, you're where are we? Your demonic bloodline, that straight away makes absolute sense that you'd have access to magic because you're an innately magical, otherworldly creature, and that's pretty cool. Where are we? Your spell casting ability is charisma. Yep. Your spell casting ability straight away. You've got +2 on all your spells, also +2 on your charisma rather. So you've got a bonus on all your spells. You're doing really well. You're throwing magic. You're throwing fire. The classic fireball sorcerer works very well because you've got your fire resistance. So that's really something you can consider. Obviously, you've got multiple sources of magic, but the draconic bloodline and wild magic, either one can be fudged in there. Draconic bloodlines. You pick the dragon that most looks like, or you think most works with a demon and just say demonic bloodline instead, or you've got the wild magic, the idea that you're an unworldly creature, because demons aren't of this plane or aren't of the plane that you tend to be playing in, and the idea that your magic is unreliable as that your very nature is antithetical to the nature of the plane you exist in. That's really cool. Warlocks. Straight away, you've got 2 possibilities with warlocks. 1, who better to do a deal with a devil than someone that's half devil themselves. 2, if you want to do it a little more funky, an easy thing to do is to say, rather than you were born a tiefling, that it's part of your curse. You've become a tiefling. You've been infected by the demonic nature, or even elder godly nature of your pact, and that straight away locks right into warlocks. Again, your spellcasting ability is charisma, which tieflings excel at. So, rules-wise, you're going to be smashing as a warlock. It fits perfectly. Tieflings, in a lot of the systems, demons and half-demons are made to work for greater demons. The idea that you're bound as the servant, slave, or agent of an exceptionally dark elder power or a fiend. It can be a great old one or a fiend. Tieflings are bred with otherworldly creatures, and whilst great old ones are different, it's not going to take much by your DM to fudge that line and work that for you. It's quite cool, actually. Wizard-wise, you've got +1 intelligence. Straight away, you're going to have an advantage on the spell casting, which is nifty. Background-wise, there's nothing particular apart from the fact that tieflings can often be more solitary creatures. Wizards tend to look past the obvious into the more esoteric. A lot of wizards bind demons and that, so having a tiefling on side might not necessarily hurt, and certainly would be something that the wizard is going to be potentially more tolerant of than your average person. Anyone who deals with demons, devils, and monsters and binds them with magic throughout their career is going to flinch less at the sign of a slightly horny bloke. From the tiefling's perspective, wizards are often solitary in the towers. You don't have to deal with humans. You don't have to deal with the judgment you get from being a tiefling. So, it's entirely possible that the tiefling would quite happily choose out a wizardly way of life. In addition to that, when you've got illusion magic, you can get away with being a tiefling for short periods without the judgment, without the problems. So, yeah. Sorry, guys. The Twitch is with me tonight. So, tieflings are a fairly broad race background-wise. Again, because they don't have a specific race, their traits are less defined. It tends to be more about how other people react to tieflings and how that affects their attitudes towards other people. So it's much more easily modifiable. And because it's fairly straightforward in that it's distrust followed by distrust followed by being self-sufficient. Tieflings work well with most classes. I've missed out Rogue. Sorry guys, I've just realised I must have skipped over Rogue. Obviously with Rogues, there's nothing stopping you doing it. The idea of a Tiefling that doesn't really like society and doesn't really trust society totally works. I mean, Tiefling Thieves are a great idea. You're going to have a hard time sneaking about, but that's something that your character can work out with. And if nobody trusts you, why should you trust anybody? And if everybody treats you as though you've done something wrong, it's fairly easy to decide, fuck it, why should I respect their rules and why should I respect their law if their law and their rules don't respect me? So, yeah, background-wise, a Tiefling rogue makes perfect sense. Skill-wise, there are no advantages. The intelligence might work for a magic-using rogue, and again, the idea that a Tiefling might be comfortable with weirder, wackier magical stuff, whereas a human rogue might not be, fits straight into the Tiefling's background, so that's cool. So there's no... Yeah, Tieflings make pretty good characters for any class, if for no other reason than demons are cool, and being a half demon gives you a great background hook from the get-go. I like them. There is a tendency by some players to play them as a little too cool for school, a little bit like Angel out of Buffy, where they're all mopey and it's like, oh, no one understands demonic me. It's like, yeah, we do. You're half demon. It's fairly easy. But that being said, they're still a lot of fun to play, and even if you want to play them that way, it is a lot of fun to play it that way. They're a very enjoyable race. It gives you role-playing straight off the bat. Your average peasant is going to be scared of them. Your average noble is going to look down on them as impure. Your average elf is going to look at them as if they were demonic and not want to deal with them. It gives you a lot of stuff that you're basically going to have to work against constantly throughout the campaign, which gives you some cool roleplay. And I always think that unless you're working in a world where the demonic is commonplace, your DM should give you that. They shouldn't just give you a free pass. I mean, the same goes with orcs and a lot of the other semi-monstrous races. It should be something that constantly crops up and that constantly affects how your character exists with and functions within the world that you're inhabiting. I already think there's a lot of fun to be had there. Basically, that's it for Tieflings. I think next I'm going to probably do something like breaking down the individual races.